My guest today represents Texas's 19th congressional district, which sits in the western part of the state and includes the cities of Lubbock and Abilene. In Congress, he sits on the Ways and Means Committee and is chair of the Budget Committee, where he was instrumental in advancing the reconciliation package, also known as the One Big Beautiful Bill. He's currently in his fifth term in Congress, having been first elected in 2016. In that time, he's been one of the leading supporters of immigration enforcement, common sense border security policies, and giving ICE and CBP the resources they need to enforce our laws and keep Americans safe. Congressman Jodey Arrington, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's great to be with you, Brian, and greetings and blessings from the people of God's country, West Texas, the food, fuel, and fiber capital of the world.
Very good. Thank you. So many people have commented in this past year the difference between the immigration policies and condition of this country under President Trump versus the past 4 years, where we saw so many failed policies in practice. What are you hearing from your constituents on the ground there as far as what is it like there now versus those last 4 years?
Well, it's dramatically different, and it's amazing how quickly, especially after we heard one of the many lies from the Democrats, from Biden on down, and the mainstream media, that we needed legislation to fix it. That they needed the Republicans to work in a bipartisan fashion to give them the tools and authority. But what we didn't have and what we needed then was the political will to do it. The President of the United States is the Commander-in-Chief. He's the Chief Law Enforcement Officer. And we have returned to rule of law now. We have a respect for our sovereign border. We have support for our enforcement, immigration enforcement, and law enforcement officers. So morale is up. And after the Big Beautiful Bill, we have passed and funded with record amounts of investment in border security, from the border wall to more boots on the ground, technology, and other strategies. So it is palpable, it is measurable, and it is significant. And all you have to do is talk to any of the sheriff's deputies anywhere across Texas. The precipitous drop in human trafficking, drug trafficking, and crimes of all kinds is down. And remember, Texas was ground zero for Biden's border crisis. And we spent billions of dollars, upwards of $13 billion, to do the job that the federal government was failing to do and abdicating under the dereliction of President Biden and Mayorkas. That has changed. It has changed significantly, and the quality of life for my fellow Texans has improved as a result.
Since the One Big Beautiful Bill passed, we've heard so much about the funding that it's allowed and created for hiring of new agents, for border wall construction, for interior enforcement. Have you noticed material changes in your district since that bill has passed?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, we needed to do the right thing and reimburse states who were doing the job of the federal government under Joe Biden and his outfit, right? Because that is a federal responsibility, but Texans don't wring their hands when the federal government fails to do its job and drops the ball. The state patrol, our National Guardsmen, and the leadership of Texas engaged and spent a lot of money. And so part of the Big Beautiful Bill was an acknowledgement that they were doing the job the feds should have been doing. We reimbursed them. But you're right. Whether it's the infrastructure for criminal justice to process people, or detention capacity so that we can actually follow the law that says shall detain, or the resources to vet and actually remove people who've had their day in court, have no legitimate reason of being in this country, and need to be deported. All of that is expensive, especially, Brian, when you're talking about millions of people that have flooded into our country over the last 4 years. So the resources we gave were unprecedented, but desperately needed, and the effects are being felt at all levels. I mean, our hospitals aren't overrun. Our public education systems, our schools aren't overrun. And our criminal justice system, including the courts, I mean, the cost and the delays in court cases because of the bottleneck from immigration cases is extraordinary. So it's hard to quantify all of the impacts societally and financially, but it's huge, and it was felt day one, and we continue to see record output from this administration in terms of enforcing the law, deporting folks, dealing with the criminal elements, et cetera.
We're now more than a week into the government shutdown here in Washington, and it seems the biggest sticking point is illegal aliens having access to Medicare, Medicaid, and Obamacare. Where do you think the public is at on this issue, and how does that compare to your colleagues in Congress?
The American people are fed up with the lawlessness and chaos, number one. So there are so many facets to the adverse social impact, not the least of which is the cost to taxpayers. I think FAIR did an estimate of $9,000 per illegal immigrant in this country for taxpayer-funded social services. Brian, that's more than we spend on our own American vulnerable citizens who are beneficiaries of Medicaid. And the list of those services extend to higher education, public education, housing. So the American people know that we are now $37 trillion in debt, that the safety net for our own citizens is not sustainable. And the last thing they want is having their tax dollars siphoned off from these safety nets that were created for our own vulnerable citizens, whether it's seniors on Medicare or the poorest and most vulnerable Americans on Medicaid. So we shut that down in the big, beautiful bill. We put in the safeguards to prevent illegal immigrants from receiving taxpayer funds. The crazy thing is Democrats have chosen to shut the government down, hurt the American citizens, disrupt national security and public safety services, among many other important services that are provided to the American people, on account of gutting our big, beautiful bill and all of the safeguards, controls, and accountability measures to prevent fraud, waste, and abuse, including monies going to taxpayer monies going to people who are here illegally. It's hard to believe, but that's the Democrat Party today. You would have thought they would have had a course correction after Trump got the mandate, won 7 swing states, and we had the full unified Republican leadership in Washington. But they've doubled down on their radical policies and their unreasonable and extreme positions, and this is just one of them.
Since the shutdown began, we've heard a lot of information out there about how this is going to affect the various federal agencies. What have you heard from DHS as far as how this is going to affect their ability to enforce the laws of the country, particularly with immigration?
Well, just know that next week is the first week that our troops don't get paid. 95% of Homeland Security personnel, including CBP, Border Patrol officials, and other immigration enforcement officials. So I know they're committed. You talk to them in Texas. Their morale is back up. They know that this administration has their back. They know that they are respected for the dangerous job they do. And these are folks that don't do this for a paycheck. They do it because they feel a call to duty. And so they're as committed as ever, as motivated as ever to defend America's sovereignty and protect our citizens. But there will be real practical implications for people putting food on the table if the Democrats continue to hold our government and the American people hostage over their desire to reverse the policies that prevent illegal immigrants from receiving taxpayer-funded services and a host of other wasteful and fraudulent federal spending. And I think they're going to lose in a big way politically. But Chuck Schumer seems to think, as he was quoted recently, that the Democrats win every day the shutdown continues. He doesn't win. No party wins. That's the rhetoric of political hackery at its worst. The American people are losing. These folks on the front line who do the most important and dangerous job for us in terms of securing our homeland and public safety and security of all kinds, they're losing. And their families are losing. And so it's not a game, as Chuck Schumer seems to think, but they are focused, Brian. You gotta respect the level of patriotism and commitment that they bring every day to the job. And I think these conditions, as painful as they are no exception for them. They're focused on doing their job, and that's keeping you and me safe.
The first Trump administration did so many good things with respect to immigration enforcement. And then we saw the Biden administration undo a lot of that because it was done primarily via executive order. What opportunities do you see in Congress to enact some statutory reforms so that a future Democratic administration won't be able to undo a lot of this good we're seeing now?
You bet. Well, it's a great question because a lot of what we did in the big, beautiful bill, I'm the budget chairman, I can tell you the procedural tool of budget reconciliation is how we were able to pass that unprecedented roughly $100 billion in technology, border wall funding for our law enforcement officers, among other things. But there were other policy changes that need to be made that we couldn't because of the parameters that guide the reconciliation process. See, reconciliation allows us to get a simple majority in the Senate. So it was a purely Republican exercise. Simple majority in the House and a 50% plus one in the Senate. Generally, it takes 60 votes to change policy. So we would have to get, several Democrats to support the policy changes that we desperately need to make permanent in statute, not just the whipsaw we've experienced from the Biden administration to the law and order Trump administration. That's the loopholes in asylum. That's other loopholes in the immigration system, including the breakdown of the parole process and allowing such latitude and prosecutorial discretion for paroling people and giving temporary status to folks who are completely unvetted and pose a threat to our fellow citizens. There are also services that extend beyond just health care that need to be cut off. Mike Lee and I, Senator Mike Lee from Utah, and I have introduced the America First Act. It basically turns off the spigot of services across the board, not just health care, but every means-tested welfare, which is almost 90 programs at the cost of about $1.6 trillion. So there are plenty of other policy changes that need to be made, namely, like E-Verify would be another one for preventing employers from hiring illegal workers. Those are the magnets that have drawn people here. So whether it's administrations in the future, Democrat administrations that would take advantage of the loopholes or turning off the magnets that are drawing people, we have to work to make that the new norm going forward. But we have to negotiate with Democrats in the Senate. And so far, they haven't even been willing to support our efforts to increase the penalty for people who assault our ICE and other immigration enforcement officers. So that again, this is an extreme party that hasn't course corrected, and it's been very difficult to work with them on just the most common sense legislation.
Before we wrap up, is there anything else you're working on or any messages that you'd like to share with our viewers?
Well, I've worked on something near and dear to my heart as a Texan, especially in light of the last 4 years. When the federal government breaks down and fails to protect states against an invasion, and that's what it was. It was an invasion by narco-terrorist cartels, and we saw tens of thousands of American citizens dying every year because of the poison being trafficked. That's just one of the criminal elements that posed a threat to the American people. Well, we need to affirm the state's sovereign right of self-defense. So when a nation's invaded and the federal government fails, and there's imminent threat to the citizens of any state, that state has the right to defend itself. We need to reaffirm that. And we need to do it now while we have Republican control of Congress and a president who will sign that legislation. There are a number of other things we've done, Brian. We've introduced legislation to prevent states from issuing driver's license to illegal immigrants. You would think that would be a common sense bill that would enjoy lots of bipartisan support, but it doesn't. Democrats don't support it. And there's a host of other things we're working on, but the bottom line is this: morale is up, resources are there to secure the border, and we have to find every way possible to negotiate in the Senate for some of these policy changes so we don't experience the deluge of illegal immigrants overrunning this nation like we experienced over the last 4 years. So we will continue to hammer away at it, and hopefully we can get this government turned back on, open, get our border security personnel, our troops and veterans for their services that they need. We can get that flowing so that we can negotiate some of these things going forward.
Congressman Jodey Arrington, thank you for your time today. Thank you for all your good work on this issue, and please join us again in the future.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you to FAIR for your leadership to restore rule of law and to make sure that border security is national security, and that we never forget that because it's going to take many years to come back from the damage that's done. So you guys do great work, and we appreciate you.
Thank you. Take care.